so your son will in the future will have stomach problems. So I give him this Chinese name. He will protect him from all the stomach issues.
So you got stomach problem?
Still have lah.
Oh, shucks. Hello everyone, welcome to today's episode of TBH. Today we'll be speaking about New Age practices and we have with us Father Simon.
Hello.
So how this came about was because I was just scrolling through my FYP and then I realized that every time I try to scroll, I always see live videos of people even like either doing tarot card readings or they're selling crystals to me, and it's very nice lah. So actually secretly a bit tempted. But then so the question always, right, is I know people who are Catholic, but then they also like sort of engage in some kind of New Age practices. Like,
They be taking some things without realizing it's linked to New Age, you know. Even for myself, as when I give communion sometimes, I'll still come up with the body of Christ and they'll have all these bracelets on their hands.
yeah.
Something made of agar wood, or sometimes it's the EP4 crystals. I've even got some people with...
Wow.
I only know some form of crystal.
Oh, P4 is called
Pishu, it's called Pishu.
Pishu, yeah,
Oh,
Pishu, correct.
Pishu is
material?
it's like you know that animal statue outside those temples.
Oh yeah.
It's something like that.
Mythical
mythical lion
creature.
kind of bracelet. thing.
Some people wear abacus, you know, with a miraculous medal on the front and the abacus behind.
Wow.
Even had some Catholics ask, can you bless these together?
Yeah. Oh, conflict
How
of
do you
interest.
respond to that? Yeah.
So this people say, well, we can bless the miraculous medal because that's a sacramental of the church, but when it comes to the abacus, why are you wearing the abacus? What is that for, you know?
So anyway, we thought it would be nice to talk about it, right? So maybe we can first talk about what are New Age practices actually?
Well, the term New Age itself came from the kind of a bit of astrological framework of sorts where, you know, because of alignment of the stars, and then they were saying, you know, around the turn of the millennium, there's a new age because the stars align, and then therefore it's a new cycle of whatever astronomical, the way they look at it. As a term, it actually says it's new age of Aquarius versus the previous age, which was the age of Pisces. I don't know whether I'm pronouncing it correctly. Pisces, yeah, age of Pisces.
Spicy?
And I see the age of Pisces as linked to Christianity.
Oh.
And so the new age of Aquarius is kind of like, you know, turning away from Christianity towards a different kind of spirituality. I don't think the new age practices, they see themselves as a religion of sorts, but they see themselves as a kind of a way of practicing spirituality that is going to be more for everybody, you know, in that sense. You know, I mean, we all know that as human beings, we are more than just bodies. You know, we have affections, we have love, we are always fascinated by spiritual element as well. We're all yearning for something that's more infinite, that's greater. And so the New Age movement kind of latch on this and they give a different way of trying to say a spirituality of sorts that tries to meet the desires of the people today, but from our Christian perspective, from our Catholic perspective, it's actually quite dangerous and quite contrary to our understanding of the faith of who God is and who we are called to be as well.
So maybe we can talk about like the different kinds of New Age practices that we've been exposed to ourselves. Because like I mentioned, there are different things, right? Yeah. So any of the experiences that you all have had?
Fortune telling, crystal, and yoga. These are the three New Age practices that I came into contact with lah.
Wait, so what about the fortune telling? Like, what made you wanted to seek like fortune telling?
My mom went to seek this fortune teller to give me like a Chinese name. So so the fortune teller was saying that so your son will in the future will have stomach problems. So I give him this Chinese name. He will protect him from all the stomach issues.
So you got stomach problem?
Still have lah.
Oh shucks.
It's so sad. In your future, you will have stomach
Yeah, so he said your son will be more prone to stomach issues and everything lah. But I'm still having stomach issues.
What's your name?
Yeah. So the name he gave me was 见香, which means 见
健康的健.
no 建屋子的建, so which is building. And 香 is it means flight lah. So to build flight.
Build flight
Yeah.
against the stomach.
Against the stomach issues. So I have no idea how is it linked. How does building of flight link to stomach issues?
But it's the kind they 算的.
Yeah, so he calculated the, you know, we call it the 八字, the eight
Characters.
eight characters, everything. So he calculated everything, and then he said that, oh, okay, your son in the future will be prone to stomach issues. I give him this Chinese name, he will protect him.
Wait, so when you were slightly older, did your mom bring you there, or did you like go to the fortune teller to maybe, I don't know, seek some answers from your
Regarding
love
my name?
life? I don't know.
Oh,
no,
no.
like other
So-
things in your life.
So other things in my life. So I remember there was once we went to Bangkok. so she brought me to this fortune teller at one of the temples there. So she was asking, I think it was a nun. I think it was a nun. Not a Buddhist nun. A Buddhist nun. Relax. It's not Catholic nun. It's a Buddhist nun. So she was asking her, so how's my son's future like and everything. Then I can't remember, I can't really remember what the nun said, but the nun just kept saying that your son will not have a wife in the future and this kind of
Your
thing.
future also bleak.
Yeah, I don't know. So it's like, I think,
Bleak, no wife, bleak man.
No, as in,
It's
I'm
not the
not sure about
religious
the
life.
credibility or what lah, but you're saying that your son will not, your son will get married, but is don't have a wife
Then
material.
get married to what?
Wife material.
I don't know. So it's very ambiguous. It says so it's like my future wife what is a tomboy or something like that. I don't know. Not feminine lah, that kind of thing, you know. So
Wait, how old were you back then?
I was about 13 or 14.
Wow.
Yeah, still haven't converted yet. Yeah, so that time still free thinker.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So that's why. But then I'm like, what nonsense lah. Like,
So you didn't believe
I didn't believe it lah. Like, you know, because back then I think that I felt like I decide what my future is,
okay.
and I'm the one in control.
That sounds very sad actually, like you're
Yeah,
cursing
yeah,
me.
it's like-
Yeah, that's why. Exactly. So how is that good?
Yeah, it's like, and then
No, but I guess for some people, like the fortune telling is the positive side. That's why, right? It's not always the
Yeah.
you're not gonna get a wife.
And
or
then like,
whatever.
you know, my relatives went also, and then I'm the only grandson in the family, and then they were saying like, oh, you know, they heard the only grandson in the family is not going to get married in the future. They were like, what's going to happen to our family name and those kind of thing, you know.
Oh, but your family believe in
Because
this,
my father's side, they're all Buddhist.
right?
Yeah, and then my mom's side is all Catholic. So, yeah.
Wow.
But those people who go like to fortune tellers or even like do this whole feng shui thing, they might feel like there's no harm, you know. I just seek another opinion, and then like I just err on the side of caution. Like, I just do these things so I won't like get into trouble.
Well, in the scriptures, it tells us very strongly, you know, to want to know the future is itself problematic because I don't want to let the future of in God's plan unfold. I want to know the future because I want to be somewhat like God. I want to be in control of the life, which is where it becomes problematic. So even to want to know itself, to divine the future, that itself is saying to God, I don't trust you. I don't believe in you enough that whatever you reveal to me now is enough and adequate. I must go and find back doors and other ways to get at your knowledge, assuming that the fortune telling even has some real knowledge in that sense, you know.
I don't know about y'all, but I have never done fortune telling, but I do yoga because I like to like keep fit or like to stretch, you know. Sometimes you sit too long like doing work and stuff, then your back aches and stuff. But back then, I used to do yoga as a form of like stretching, and I always go for the one that isn't so much meditative, but more of like positive like affirmations. So the instructor will be
She'll
like,
say a lot of things over you.
you are enough, yeah, or like just be present with the moment. And I like it because I'm more contemplative by nature. So
That affirmation is a very, very main part of the whole spirituality of the New Age, and the idea is that, you know, you are adequate in yourself. You don't need other, you know, beings in that sense to you have the divine within you actually. So it's more of trying to unleash that positive power within you. So there's quite a bit of element of that in New Age ideas.
but what is the difference between like, let's say my friends affirm me, you know, the same message, you are
so
good,
when you're doing yoga,
you're good
going,
enough.
yeah,
right?
Yes. And this is where I think sometimes the New Age can be the line is very difficult to define sometimes, right? Because is there something to positive thinking that, I am loved by God? Maybe even for us Christians, we affirm, right? I am loved by the Lord. I am God's son. I am God's adopted daughter through baptism, you know. But it comes from an affirmation of somebody else who says who I am. The Father says, I am his beloved son. The Father says, you are his beloved daughter. Whereas the New Age idea would be a lot more of, I am good in myself. And we know sometimes when people affirm us, sometimes, right, they can say a lot of wonderful things about us, but sometimes we have a sense that they are not really being very honest as well, isn't it?
I had
Sometimes
those
too.
experiences. No, I'm kidding.
Who we are really comes from our Christian understanding, ultimately comes from because who God made us. Even for us, our dignity is not because I am great and grand by myself. I mean, come on, none of us have chosen our set of genes that we have. You know, none of us have chosen when we
liver,
are to be
stomach
born.
problem thing.
All these, right? We didn't choose them ourselves. It is given to us by somebody else. It is given to us ultimately for us. Our dignity comes because of God. So it is in anchoring to God that we know who we are. And God, I mean, our Christian understanding as well, God sometimes do challenge us, isn't it? God will not always say, oh, what a wonderful person you are, Michi, you're great, you're wonderful, everything you do is so good. Okay, whoever has hurt you, that person is the evil one, and the whatever, sometimes God will say, but actually, look at this part of your life. It will be very silly to say that, to think, that just because I'm loved by God or whatever, I am invincible. And that's where perhaps some of the New Age over-affirmation, in the sense from everything is from within me, can lead a bit wrong in that direction as well. So that's where the New Age is kind of very subtle in the sense there are some truths in there, but at the same time that it's also mixed in with a lot of other things, and the whole spirituality, the whole framework in which is looking at certain things from a Christian perspective has its problems.
Recently, a friend of mine sort of like jio me to go yoga. So, and all this while actually I now go because I feel like when I hear about yoga in the Catholic realm, it's always like ambiguous in some sense.
Yeah.
It is sort of wrong, but actually also it's not that wrong, right? But I just like, okay, I err on the side of caution, right? So I just don't go. But my friend invited me, and then I was like, wait, got any like of this meditation thing or not? So he went to ask his friend who was the instructor, and then she said, no lah, don't have this kind of stuff. Then we, okay lah, it sounds like it's just a stretching thing. And then when we went, initially, yeah, you're stretching everything, but then I heard words that I don't recognize. So I was like, is that a chant? I don't even know whether it's a chant because I don't know what the chant sounds like, right? But in my head, I was like, if I don't recognize, so maybe it is lah, right? So firstly, I felt scammed because you say it's not.
Yeah, your friend, just your friend.
No, it's not the friend, it's the friend's instructor. Like the friend's friend, right? Yeah, then after that, secondly, I was like, what do I do now? So I just try to block it out in my head. Like when you chant that, I just like, nope. So is that okay?
Call it Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. Jesus can protect me, right? So is that okay? Like people just treat it as stretching.
I think we have to recognize where yoga comes from, right? If you look at yoga itself, right, it is a part of the Hindu spiritual, tradition itself. It is built on their whole understanding of the human person and what the human person is connected to the whole of creation and everything. Hinduism has this idea of that God is everything and everywhere in that sense. Not just God as someone out there, but everything is God in some sense. So there are questions, of if I'm taking something from somebody's cultural tradition and religious tradition, and I'm taking it out and just says, I don't want your religious idea, and I just want the stretching. People say, I think I love the sign of the cross. So, but the Christians, we Catholics, we make the sign of the cross as a way of praying, as a way of expressing our faith in the passion of Christ, and we on the cross of Christ to protect us, but we also want to imitate the cross of Christ to carry our cross in our lives. But I think what a wonderful thing. I'm not to take it, and then when I before I do my runs, sometimes you see that in the Olympic runners as well, right? Before I do my runs, I make a sign of the cross. Whether I've got faith or not, no, I just make a sign of the cross because it looks cool to me. Yeah, make a superstitious of sorts, I'm trying to encourage, I say, I'm also, with all of you in that sense, even though I may not believe. Then we'll say that's kind of like appropriating our religious symbols.
Who wear the rosary even though they're not
correct. Like similar like that, wearing the rosaries when they are not even Christians or Catholics. It's appropriating somebody else's religious and cultural symbol. So yoga, for me, because it has very deep roots in the Hindu religious tradition. But the other element also, because the yoga postures itself, yes, there are a lot of stretching postures in that sense. So sometimes we ask, so what's the difference between Pilates and stretching? Why can't we just do some stretching and Pilates ourselves? Why the yoga poses? The yoga poses, they have a certain, they are based on the Hindu mythological stories. They are linked to the Hindu ideas as well. So when you do certain postures, for them you open certain chakra points.
So what are chakra points?
They are kind of like what they will call energy centers of sorts, I think. Right? If I'm not wrong, there's certain energy centers of sorts where you will release the energy within, and it will promote self-healing and all these things. Okay, so kind of like a spiritual force, which they, of course, from the Hindu perspective, it's within the Hindu perspective it's tight, it's logical, because for them everything is God. Divine is in everything. So for them, that's how they see it. Even though from our Catholic tradition, we may not say, we may disagree with that, but in doing certain postures, it has its elements of, am I actually also subscribing a little bit to some of the elements and ideas over there? Because a certain postures, certain gestures, the certain movements are linked to the mythological stories. We use our bodies to tell stories sometimes. So we may not be aware of what the bodily movements and postures, the different poses from one to the other. And then for us, we just be very nice, weird, odd poses here and there. But for them, it tells a certain story of the Hindu myth. And like it or not, I think for us human beings, right, we don't just tell stories with words, we tell stories with our bodies, our things. Even though I may not subscribe to that story, in enacting out, in some sense, I may be inviting that same myth and that same story that is another spiritual tradition into my life, into my experience as well. In some sense, it's like this. It's like when someone gives me a ring, okay, versus I can buy the ring myself, right? We in our very scientific world, we see the material is the same thing. It means exactly the same thing because it's just a ring. But when someone gives you a ring, it has a certain connotation where there's a deeper level of meaning to it. So things are not just material, there's a certain spiritual dimension of things. So when I give you a ring, it symbolizes something. For you, the ring is special. If I throw that ring away, you'll be very upset with me, even though I can buy you a same ring, but it's different because it's not the same person who has given you that ring. So same thing even in that sense where the postures that are created, the human person who, in creating this, a spiritual tradition that has formulated these postures, they do imbibe this posture with a certain interpretation and meaning that one cannot quite say, because I don't agree, therefore I can just shout out the spiritual meaning behind it. You know?
Okay, that answers kind of my question, because I was wondering how much belief plays into this. So you were saying like objects are objects on its own unless like you assign meaning to it, right?
Yeah, because in the spiritual tradition, it comes from they have assigned a certain meaning behind it.
So I've seen like on videos, right? Example like tarot cards or example yoga itself also. People kind of want to remove that, okay, I'm not believing in this spiritual thing, but actually I'm going to assign a Christian thing to it.
That's what
So
I did in my yoga thing.
yeah, so example like, so you do yoga, but instead of saying like random words, I'm going to say Bible verses over you. The Lord delights in you, that kind of thing. Or like tarot cards, like some people are taking it and making Christian cards versions. So they instead of saying like, oh, I feel this spirit coming to me, it's the Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit, that kind of thing. Yeah, and then they assign different cards, but the cards are like all Christian related.
So the assignment of new meanings to it, I mean, in the Christian tradition, our Catholic tradition, we have also taken over certain things from the other cultures and Christianized it. For example, even in our Chinese, in Singapore, very, very local Catholic culture, on Chinese New Year, what do we give?
Ang pao.
He said ang pao lah. We know what Shanice is.
That's on your mind. Every Chinese
Every Chinese So now you all know. But in our church, we give oranges. Right, it's actually something very local. When we go to China, you won't see that. When you go to Taiwan, you don't see that. It's actually very Singaporean.
Why do we do that?
And Malaysian as well. Why do we give that? Because for us, when we go and pioneer, right? What do we give? We give oranges. Why do we give oranges?
To get ang pao.
That's right.
Shops like that. I give you money. I give you something. You must give me money. Buy a shop in exchange. Prosperity itself is a gift from the Lord. All the resources that we have, the treasures that we have been given, they are all given by the Lord for us to use to grow His kingdom on earth as well, to help to grow the family and the country too as well. So it Christianizes it and says that, okay, in the church we bless these marine oranges to remind us the source of prosperity is God. And it's just the Lord who's giving us, and as we take these oranges, we're invited to receive with thankfulness, not to turn into a superstitious thing, take the oranges and then put it on the family altar. And after 15 days, it becomes superstition.
Keep first.
But it's meant to be a sign that I am receiving the blessings of the Lord. I am called to share the blessings of God with other people as well. But when we start to take other things and Christianize ourselves, the question is, it's not so obvious and simple to, I take this tarot cards, I sprinkle holy water, and now it's holy tarot cards. It's always this joke, right? On Friday, we are supposed to eat fish because it's abstinence day, okay? So now I take a piece of siubak and say, bless you, you are now fish. It doesn't happen in that way. Right? That's not how. So to Christianize something, the church, the theologians of the church, the bishops of the church, the pastors of the church do think through slowly, carefully. It takes time. It takes time. When we do on ourselves and says, I think I can Christianize it in this way, sometimes we may not be so aware of certain things, and therefore we may kid ourselves in the sense we can Christianize certain things when actually the source is so different from Christianity. As I mentioned just now, the whole idea of New Age itself, why is it called a New Age? Because it's the age that replaces Christianity. In some sense, that whole conception, that whole idea is so anti-Christian in some sense. It'll be a bit challenging in the sense that says I can take a lot of New Age practices and try to Christianize them because they are coming from a lot of the basis of I am actually replacing the old age of Christianity and all the organized religions, and I'm creating a new form of spirituality, which has, the whole New Age ideas has a lot of focus on self. It accepts a lot of idea of spiritual entities, but they don't call God as a personal God. You use terms like energy. Energy is everywhere in that sense, even within us as well. That's why, for the yoga itself, the movement of the body, the chakra points get open, the energy gets released, and then it can bring wholesome healing within you. They want the positive things, but is every spiritual element and every spiritual entity itself always positive and benign? That is where the New Age doesn't quite do the distinguishing. Because for them, in some sense, if they accept a bit more of the pantheistic idea, God is everything and everywhere, they avoid the idea of there could be evil. But if we look at our own experiences, we know everybody, we all grow up as little children, everybody is my friend. But very quickly we realize that not everybody is as friendly as we would like them to be. People can betray us, people can harbor negative and bad intentions for us as well. So the idea that spiritual entities out there are always benign and good, it is problematic in itself. So that's why I think the Christianization, it takes time. What can be Christianized? How can it be Christianized? It takes time. And it'd be quite naive of us to think that, I am wise enough by myself, I'm smart enough by myself to say, okay, yeah. Because there may be spiritual elements we're dealing with that we are not even aware or familiar with.
Talking about Christianizing things, right? So I was sort of like doing some research on Catholics who, are Catholics, and then they also like sort of like use crystals, and I was trying to see what their frame of mind is. So some of the sentiments that came up, right, was that I think this person had a crystal, and then like she puts it in her car or something like that to remind her to be safe. So she pictures it as like, it's not that I'm praying to the crystal, but it's a placebo thing, or it reminds me to be safe, but I pray to God. So is that okay?
So why don't you put a crucifix there instead?
Yeah, I know. So then right, in the thread, someone said, how about you get a cross made out of tiger's eye? Whoa.
Why tiger's eyes?
Yeah, exactly.
Why tiger's eyes?
But I think the person was trying to combine both. Means there's the Jesus there, but it's also made up of a crystal. Yeah.
Because in the New Age idea, crystals have certain vibrations, certain frequencies, certain energies. Different crystals got different energies. So when you put the energy in a certain place, like a bit of like feng shui elements, you put all the elements to the right place, then you have all the positive energy. The positive energy will fight against all the negative, whatever energy there may be, and keep you safe in that sense. But that's where it veers into really New Age ideas, superstitious ideas in that sense. Is there anything wrong with crystals in itself? No, they can be very pretty in that sense. If I put crystals in my house as decoration, that's quite a different thing, then I must place a crystal in this particular crystal because of, ultimately because I think I can buy insurance and have a bit more safe in my house. That's a very different thing entirely.
So is the association that's wrong?
It's the association.
When I was doing my research on this, because I was trying to understand how crystals work as well. But if crystals are like from the earth, right? Okay, I might sound very bimbotic saying this, but it's a curious question. Okay, if crystals are from the earth and God created the world and earth and everything, then why is it wrong? Maybe he could use, crystals for healing.
But to associate them with certain energies or certain forces by themselves, that's where it becomes problematic. Okay, for us, even as Catholics, what do we say? Are we only supposed to pray to God when you fall sick? There are natural causes of way of getting health, which medical science try to discover, what is causing us to be sick, and what are the medications that can relieve the symptoms, what are the medications that can help us to fight against certain viruses or bacteria. So how can we then help the body to heal? There's a natural causes, and these are natural causes because it follows a natural law. Right? The natural law, of course, it comes from how God created the human body, how God created, the various different microbes and everything, and how the chemicals are interacting with each other. So that's not a problem in itself because it's using what God has given. Right? There is also spiritual cause of healing as well. God can miraculously intervene. We heard stories of miracles, maybe in Lourdes, for example, where people go to the bath of water. So the water itself has no curative property by itself.
Yeah, that can be superstitious
but because of the grace of God, certain people get healed in that sense, and then miraculous healing. So when we come to spiritual healing, for us as Catholics, for us as Christians, the source must be from God. To say that there are spiritual forces, for us, do we believe there are other spiritual beings? Yes, there are. We call them, there are angels, of course, who are associated with the Lord as well. They are in the kingdom of God as well, but they're all obedient to God. And then there's also the devil, there's also Satan, there's also all the fallen spirits. Can these fallen spirits try to pretend to give a miracle? This is very well possible as well. So if we are asking for spiritual sources of healing that does not come from God, then who are we asking from? Either we are asking from nothing, or else we are asking from other spiritual entities that are not under, the domain of God, in that sense, are not obedient to God. So the question then comes, are these crystals of themselves? Do they have any spiritual forces by themselves? Or if they don't have spiritual forces by themselves, then who are we expecting to protect us when we put this? In some sense, if we put our belief in all the superstitions, I'm saying that there is some other spiritual authority that I subscribe to in my life besides God. And when we put crystals in a certain place in the houses because I believe they got the energy, the forces to do this, as I said, I'm believing that there's some other spiritual force that I can manipulate for my benefit. I am actually subscribing myself to the spiritual authority.
Are you praying to the crystal or through it? So is there a difference?
But through it to who?
Meaning, like, if
Much
let's say
like for us, even for us, we have crucifix, we have the statues, right? We have holy pictures of saints. We are not praying. Of course, let's take a look at the picture of the crucifix. We are not praying to the crucifix. The crucifix reminds us of the love of God. We are praying to God, right? Because the crucifix reminds us how God loves us. So our direction is turned towards God. Right? There are some people who will take the statue of Our Lady. For us, we take our statue of Our Lady, we say it reminds us of the maternal love of Mary, who is our mother, because Jesus on the cross gave her as our mother. And so when I pray before the statue of Our Lady, I'm asking Mary, please pray for me to intercede for me. There are some people who don't know the theology behind it. They'll say, oh, Mary is the one who's the goddess who gives out things. There are people who do that. So that's where they misunderstand what our Catholic understanding is, and they take it a different way, and it says, oh, now I'm praying to Mary as a goddess in some sense. Okay? So if I look at the crystal, I'm praying through the crystal, but who am I praying through the crystal to who?
Yeah, so if they say, okay, I pray through the crystal to God.
Yeah. Or what the crystals in the form of a crucifix?
So there are possibilities. I mean, crucifixes can be made out of jade, can be made out of anything.
Yeah. So what does that mean? How am I supposed to feel about that?
So it's purely aesthetic, is it okay?
If it's created in the form of a crucifix and I intend to pray to God, I think it's valid in that sense, right? Because it is made in the form of a crucifix. It reminds me of the love of God, in a form that the church, the sacramental, has a certain shape, right? Crucifix. You can't just put a lump of blob there and says that's a crucifix here beside. That's not what a crucifix looks like. Crucifix has an upper, a horizontal beam, a vertical beam, and then you have the body of Christ over there as well. So that reminds us of the crucifix. So if I've got a crystal, I've got a jade material, some stone material that's really fashioned in that way, and then, of course, blessed by the church as well, then yes, it is reminding me that this is of the love of God. I can pray to God, making use of this to remind me. Okay, but if it's a crystal that is totally different in a sense, it's quite different form, different shape. To try to say, this nice jagged looking piece reminds me of God. Maybe like, what kind of God are we being reminded of in some sense?
But I guess that the error in that sense would be if let's say the crystal is in the form of a crucifix, but I pray through it in the sense that, like, I believe that this crystal would give me some kind of
that's
some
different.
Kind of gateway.
So now the crystal becomes important.
Yeah.
So rather
and I think that's what the person meant.
Yeah, that's where it becomes problematic. If it's a crucifix, I can use any crucifix, right? So let's say I have a different crucifix. Can I still pray to the same God through the different crucifix? If the answer is I can. I can. Then my focus is not on the material itself. But if I'm saying only this crucifix because this is a crystal, then it becomes we can kid ourselves. I'm praying to God actually, but actually I am more focused on the object, the material itself. It is because of this material that's why I got connection with the Lord. That's where it becomes superstitions.
I can see why these new age things will be quite appealing to people because we're all searching for meaning, for purpose, for answers.
Yeah.
So like even for me, right, we have a basket of like Bible verses, right? So sometimes when life gets bad, I just let's see what God tells me, right? Then I look at it, but it's all self-interpretation. I think that's why the video was interesting to me, especially the back part, right? They also met up with a tarot card reader. So the lady was saying like how the cards themselves are not magical. Ultimately, she's just like a channel to the message, right? Just to show you areas of your life that you can work on. And it only becomes spiritual once you try to like really look into yourself and then you try to change your life so that along with the cards, change your life for the better. So I mean, these cards are just honestly, it's the same as the Bible verses in that sense where it's just ways that we can visualize stuff, but the way we interpret it might not be what God wants us. It's just a me.
But sometimes also all these things is also I don't want to make decisions sometimes. So I let somebody else make the decision for me, you know.
Yeah.
So, of course, there are sometimes why is counseling very powerful way of, because counseling is helping to uncover what is sometimes very often deep inside. I don't think any counselors, at least most of the counselors I know and work with, they don't claim they have some special back doors to God or some spirits with spirits whispering to them and say this person is trying to say this, and actually they're trying to uncover what's inside by asking questions.
Correct.
Right, and helping the person to know what's inside the person. What am I desiring? What am I struggling with? What, you know? But then counsellors are very clear. The decisions ultimately is the person has to make. But sometimes when we go for all these other things, you know, fortune telling or whatever it is, or tarot cards or all these things, even sometimes picking Bible verses. I mean, when we were young, we have all done this. Sometimes I don't know, should I go to this school or that school?
Bible
So what?
roulette.
Okay, yeah. So I put the two
Bible
schools inside and see which one falls. Okay, the school I'm supposed to go to, you
That's how
know.
my sister chose a
That's what I'm
It's
guilty
a
when I pick
refusal
up,
to make a decision ultimately. It's just I don't want to make a decision myself. So therefore, if I make a wrong decision, I got somebody else to blame.
I'm being called out.
Right? But that's not how God ultimately wants us as free beings created in His image and likeness with the intellect that is given to us. That's not how He wants us to make decisions in that sense. The tarot card readers may say that, oh, we are just trying to uncover whatever is inside, because in some sense, some of them may be doing something of that sort. They're saying very vague things. But then to the person, it's because it's actually something's on their heart already, so they make the connection themselves. But at the same time, using the tarot cards itself has a certain connotation with it as well.
So what if, let's say I'm praying for something, right? Let's say, okay, which school to go to, and then I pray, in my prayer, this message comes up. And then a good friend of mine also prays with me, and I ask my friend to pray for me. And then the same message also comes out, the same themes. So then isn't it like quite similar to the whole idea of like seeking counsel or like someone external?
Yes, so for us as Catholics, we do believe that God speaks to us. Okay? God can reveal Himself to us, because God is a personal God who wants to speak to us and reveal. You know, He does help us to make plans and to discern. That's why discernment is a big field in our own Catholic tradition itself.
But I mean, it's so hard to like, how to say, if let's say, especially if it's from parents or whatever, or if let's say your friends invite you to yoga or whatever, right? Then how are we supposed to do?
So that's the challenge sometimes, isn't it? It's not always easy, right? Even for New Age itself, right? The whole idea itself of it comes from a very spiritual and idea. You know, everything has forces, spiritual powers. So as Christians, we will have to be, at some point, we have to say certain things we really can't. But at the same time, a lot of things are not fully defined in some ways. So that's where we have to make an individual discernment as well. What are the things that I can permit? What are the things I don't allow? Whatever is built on superstitions should not be allowed. But discernment built on the basis that I have a relationship with God, that I'm a person who prays to God. Because many people come to Father Simon, you know, and or other priests, and they will say, I want you to help me to discern whether am I supposed to give up my job or take this job or do this or do that instead. Then it's like Father Simon is not here to be the medium that
let me just
you know. The way God speaks
Let
to
me
me
just
for
switch on
myself is quite different from the way, ultimately discernment itself, I don't tell you and discern for you what you are going to do. Because that is not how discernment works, and that's how God wants us to grow in that way as well. I want to speak to somebody who speaks a foreign language, but I don't want to learn a language. I just want the person to tell me and talk to me. You know, I want to understand everything the person has to say. Of course, now we have technology, Google Translate, whatever to help us. When it comes to God, it doesn't work that way. So it must begin with a relationship with the Lord. When I have a relationship with the Lord, that's when I know how God speaks to me.
So back then when I was discerning, so I was praying and saying like, oh, is the priesthood ready for me and everything. So I remembered the Buddhist nun was saying that, oh, I have no marriage life.
Yeah, so I'm
in the
not
future.
called
Is it God speaking through the Buddhist nun that I should be a priest? This kind of thing?
God speak through
Because
the
the nun said that, oh, I'm not going to get married in the future. I have no spouse in the future. This kind of thing. So, is it one way that God is telling me that, I'm called to the priesthood? This kind of thing. So I'm wondering if could it be a possibility that God speaks through,
God can speak through many different people, definitely. But don't forget, in a whole spiritual life, there's also the evil one who is at play. Does the evil one know where God might be inviting you to serve him? He might.
Why would he? Why? Okay, yeah. So that was the other question.
So why would he? Well, can the evil one tell you a truth, then later tell you a lie?
But as in, like, why would God give this or any knowledge to the evil one about us?
The evil one's knowledge is not the same way as the way we know things. Okay, the evil one doesn't know what God knows. His mind is not as great, but he does know what are the temperaments that we have. He knows what irritates us. He knows what excites us. And he's very smart.
So how are we supposed to know then, like what is from God and what?
That's why discernment itself it takes time. There's no, I want to discern by next week, Lord, whether you are calling me to change my job.
If not,
Don't test me.
If not, no, that is not how God's and discernment works itself. To discern is, I need to have a relationship with the Lord first. A relationship of trust, building up over time. Who is this God? Who does God say I am? Because God wouldn't change his who he says we are. No, today he says this, tomorrow he says that. If I don't have a familiarity, then I cannot really actually discern what God is inviting of me. So for those who are seriously discerning, I don't know who, maybe Aaron is still discerning, I'm not called to the priesthood.
No, discerning marriage.
I must grow in my relationship with the Lord first. Even for marriage, it's good to discern, am I called to marry this person? Because marriage itself is not so simple, it's like, okay, you love me, I love you, then we get married together,
Simple.
I just wanted us to speak about the labyrinth actually, because when we were thinking about New Age practices, then I recalled how like some people, because the labyrinth is sort of like used, I think sometimes at retreats or whatever, then there's like a labyrinth there and you can sort of like walk, it looks like a maze, but it sort of brings you to the center,
And you bring
right?
it out
Correct or
again.
not? Correct.
I think in and out, I think a few
Is it?
times.
I don't know. I only done it once. But then after that, I heard some like Catholics saying, oh, it's sort of New Age also. Is it true? Like, is there like a New Age thingy to it? Or is it kosher?
Well, it is interesting. You know the history of the labyrinth, by the way?
No, oh my gosh.
Yeah, because the history of the labyrinth is also lost. Well, we do know that there's one cathedral in Chartres, I think. Not Notre Dame, in France, in France, where they have a labyrinth in the center or somewhere on the floor. But what was it actually used for is lost to history.
Okay.
So nobody really knows what it was used for. So there are some scholars who would say the labyrinth was something much more ancient in terms of the idea that there was a monster living somewhere and some hero went and killed the monster, and the labyrinth developed from there as a symbol of perhaps destroying the evil one. But fast forward to the modern century, there were some people who just picked it up and then says, oh, it goes to the center. Or the center is where, God is present, where the divine is present. So the labyrinth represents a prayer journey I can walk. Combining certain elements in Christianity will also say, can we walk and pray at the same time? We can certainly, for some of us, we think better when we walk.
Yeah, that's true.
So for me, for example, I also think better when I walk. So sometimes I'll be starting walking to myself halfway in the office, but I start to pace up and down to think. So can one pray while one is walking? Certainly can. No, you don't have such a big expense to walk, so I will just walk up and down, left and right a little bit. So sometimes I follow the path of the tiles, so they just walk because it's a very mindless activity, but it helps you to think as well, So there can be some making use of labyrinth to help us to think, to pray, is in a sense there. But then where it comes a bit odd is the person who created this, although borrowing some elements from Christianity, which is what New Age very likes to do. It takes elements from every place that it likes. It goes to the center. What is at the center? The labyrinth itself, at least the modern way it's practiced, the center is very ambiguous. Is the center God? Or is the center within myself and I am the divine center? So this is where, the New Age idea would say, well, remember what we said earlier about one of the New Age ideas? The self is exalted. I am divine, or I have the divine spark within me. The spirituality is to get in touch with my inner self. Because in my inner self, I can find all the answers to all my problems, actually. I know everything already inside there. I just need to be reconnected to there, and from there connected to all the whole of the cosmos, the universe, the universal force, whatever energy it is, coming into the center. Okay? Can the center be where God dwells? In some sense, there are some spiritual writers who speak of God dwelling in the heart. It can be that. But the labyrinth idea is ambiguous. It doesn't necessarily speak of God being at the center. Then again, who am I encountering? I may be encountering God. Can God speak to me as I walk? God can speak to us as we walk anywhere. Can God speak to us as we walk in the labyrinth? He can. But is it only God who can be speaking to me if I am not aware of who am I talking to?
Oh, so as in like there might be other spirits involved?
There could be other spirits involved. And the whole New Age idea itself, in some sense, is that amorphous. Every spiritual entity is somehow benign, every spiritual entity is somehow good, but it's not so obvious and easy. And the thing is also, can God also speak to me along the way? Must I reach the center to find God?
So how are we to approach the labyrinth then? Because I said, like at some retreats, they do sort of like us or encourage us to go to the
Yeah.
labyrinth also?
Well, I would say for us as Catholics, as Christians, our direction of prayer is always towards God. So if I were to use that as a way of prayer walk, then certainly I must be directed towards God and talking to God. And I wouldn't be too focused on going to the center and encountering the Lord.
I use it as a time marker.
Yeah.
So like the times I'm walking, that's the times when I can talk a lot. But once I reach the center, I have to keep quiet. That's when I let God talk to me lah. Then once I'm done, then I'm like, thanks, then I walk out.
Yeah, but the question will also be, cannot God talk to us while we are talking along the way?
I mean, can, but I'm a very busy mind person, so I need to like word vomit out.
Yeah.
Then once I hit the center, that's my marker of like, okay, you stop. Like, let God talk now.
So sometimes you walk halfway. Like, oh, okay, God talks to me. Thank you.
Bye,
Then
bye.
you go back.
Yeah, because that's where the important thing about a relationship. What makes a relationship real is that God can surprise us. If we have a technique of prayer that says, I do this A, B, C, D, and then definitely I will arrive at something, it can become, I am manipulating God at its best. At its worst, is the evil one can make use of it and says, I'm just waiting there. When you reach there, I will just substitute for God.
Surprise.
But I guess discerning of the spirits is knowing, like, having that relationship with the Lord, which you mentioned earlier on, right? It wouldn't go against the Bible. Like, we know God's voice is God of love and truth.
And God can also challenge us
Yeah.
in that loving, gentle way. So that's why to see how God works in our lives, it does take effort. Much like any relationship, there's no such thing as automatic. The relationship just happens and flows. But after that, I must learn to listen to what the Lord is saying.
Yeah, because I wanted to ask.
And the Lord
like,
could also speak in other ways as well. When my heart is not fully quiet, sometimes He can interrupt. To be aware of that, so that because it's a relationship, it's a real person. Like any real people, sometimes you interrupt. I may want to say something. I was going to stop before just now. Yeah, but that's what the real relationship is. And when the relationship is real with the Lord, even though He tries to interrupt us, we don't give Him space, He will come and chocho you again.
is this my time to chocho
Yes,
again?
now's the time to chocho.
That's right. Yeah. Because I wanted to ask. So like just zooming out and looking at New Age practices in total, right? Like, there are reasons why people, I guess, turn to New Age practices, like whether it's stress relief or they just look at meditation as like I just need some zen, right? I need to clear my mind and I need to chill or whatever. Or it could be, I think what I've been hearing when we were talking is like there's a sense of fear, right? Fear of the unknown, and I want to know what my future is going to look like. So I want to have that insight. So if let's say that these are still needs within people, how can they center themselves or find peace in their hearts in a Christian way rather than turning to New Age practices?
Yeah, so what Christ tells us, He is the one who gives us peace. And the peace that the world cannot give. What is He referring to? Very often we think of peace as everything is sway, nice, no war, no disturbance, everything is good, comfortable the way I like it, right? That's what we think as peace. But for Jesus, the peace that He gives can exist amidst tensions, amidst difficulties, amidst challenges, amidst messiness in our lives as well. Like I have the peace of knowing what is the Lord inviting me to do. I have the peace of knowing that the Lord loves me. So certainly, as you said just now, Charlene, a lot of people, they go into this mindfulness or all this kind of meditation to quieten their minds. All these are good things in itself, right? By itself, it's good. But as I said, that's not prayer. That's just decluttering for a while. But for us as Christians, my motivation, my direction is always, who is the giver of my peace? If I just declutter myself, the source of peace is me, myself lah. But am I the real source of peace? Sometimes I am the source of tension within me as well. We need to look to God. And therefore, after I quieten my mind, that's when I need to turn to the Lord. I need the Lord to give me the insight. What is He inviting me to do? I need the Lord to give me the insight. What am I called to be comfortable with in the messiness as well? One of the things about New Age also, a lot of self-focus. As long as I'm happy, as long as I'm good, that's enough. But the Christian understanding is, the peace is not given to us so that we are comfortable and happy, where everybody else is sad. But I must then bring that peace I have to others as well. Not by telling them the technique, but there are times we have to bring the gospel to them to change some things in our society and culture as well. When our minds are too noisy, yes, we can't really easily listen to the Lord. But when we over-focus on making that the priority of prayer, it becomes itself a distraction to prayer.
So what about those people who have been involved in New Age practices, right?
Yes.
And we're trying to obviously, hopefully they step out of it. But so for someone who wants to stop doing that, is there a need to do cleansing or whatever, or just stop?
So if you are Catholic, then you will have to go for confession. Because that's a sacrament of reconciliation. That's the way we come back to the Lord. And it's a very powerful sacrament. It's a sacrament of healing as well, of the spiritual, of the soul, of all the sins, where the Lord forgives us and re-establishes that relationship with us. Because what is New Age practices? A lot of New Age practices is based on the idea that I can be in control. I have the divine spark within me. I am able to heal and save myself, you know, all the spiritual entities. But to come to a relationship with God is, I am not in control. I can't save myself. I need you, Lord, as my savior. So for us as Catholics, come back through the sacrament of reconciliation.
So thank you for watching today's episode of TBH. If any thoughts about this episode, do drop us a comment in the comment section below.
Like, share, subscribe, and if there are other topics you want us to talk about, let us know too. Till then, we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye!
So thank you for watching today. So thank you for watching I take sugar first. Why can't open up?
Darren got something.
Slowly.
Darren!
Right. So thank you for watching to today's So thank you for watching today's